She called it love. He called it control. But in a sealed federal courtroom in New York City, the government has a different word for it: trafficking. A woman known only as Jane has taken the stand against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, unraveling a harrowing timeline of lavish gifts, secret contracts, coerced sex acts, and silent suffering behind hotel doors. But this isn't just about a celebrity downfall. This is a story about what happens when power, fame, and silence are weaponized. And tonight, you're going to hear everything they tried to hide. Jane is not her real name, but that's how she's known in court, a protective alias ordered by the judge to shield her identity. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as the judge made it clear. Her life was now in the public eye, but not her face. The media, who had eagerly camped outside the courthouse, were kept at a distance. Even courtroom sketches blurred her face to protect her identity. Why? Because Jane wasn't just another witness. What she was about to reveal could shake the foundations of one of the most powerful entertainment empires in America. The world had long believed in the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, but the truth behind the scenes was far darker. And Jane was about to unveil it all. Her voice, though quiet, resonated in the courtroom. She wasn't just another woman speaking out against abuse. She was a survivor of manipulation so deep that it had become a part of her. Her testimony painted a picture of an emotional and psychological battlefield, one where love became a weapon and trust became a currency. She had been in a relationship with Combs up until his arrest, a toxic love story laced with drugs, coercion, and sexual manipulation. This wasn't just about abuse, it was about control. And her story would serve as the key to unlocking the web of power, deceit, and exploitation that had flourished under the public's radar. Jane was initially drawn into this world by the allure of love, or what she thought was love. It started subtly, she said. The two of them spent time together, and she believed it was just about being with someone who cared for her. But it quickly morphed into something sinister. These freak-offs, as she called them, weren't just brief encounters. They were prolonged, sometimes lasting for hours, even days. Jane recounted how she was lured into situations under false pretenses. They would go out for what she thought were romantic dates, only for her to be locked in hotel rooms with paid escorts. And Diddy? He wasn't just present. He watched, directed, filmed, supplied the ecstasy. She could still remember the first time it happened. She felt trapped, confused, and ashamed. She cried in front of him, hoping he would stop. But instead of stopping, he mocked her. He mocked her pain, her tears. And when she begged him to stop, he simply brought someone else in. He'd say, "Let's add more to the mix." And she was powerless to resist. It wasn't just about sex. It was about domination. The more time she spent in this world, the more she felt herself slipping away. Her sense of self became distorted. She was no longer just Jane. She was a tool, an object to satisfy others while her emotional and physical needs were ignored. Diddy's cruelty grew with every encounter, yet Jane found herself still looking for affection, hoping that something real could emerge from the manipulation. In March 2023, Jane signed what she later called a love contract. It wasn't a contract about love. It was a contract that promised her financial security, a promise of $10,000 a month. But it wasn't a gesture of affection. It wasn't about care. It was about money. At first, Jane had asked for $15,000. She believed it was necessary to make up for everything she had endured. The pain, the humiliation, the loss of herself. What was the money used for? Rent, furniture, dental veneers, even her lifestyle. Everything she bought, everything she owned, was somehow linked to Diddy's money. But even as she admitted that, Diddy still paid her rent today despite his arrest. It became clear that this wasn't charity. This was leverage. The money wasn't about kindness. It was about control. Every time Jane pushed back, Diddy threatened to cut her off. He would call her on the phone and in a cold, emotionless voice say, "Get on your job. You'll have a rude awakening." Every dollar she received from him was just another chain, another reminder of the control he held over her. Each paycheck came with the understanding that if she spoke out, if she fought back, he would silence her with the one thing that kept her tethered to him. Jane wasn't just a lover to Diddy. She was more than that. She became the recruiter, the coordinator, and at times, even the performer. Her life blurred into a mix of drugs, exploitation, and manipulation. She testified that she had carried ecstasy across state lines, from Los Angeles to Miami, wrapped in a simple white envelope. Diddy directed her. His assistant reassured her, saying, "It's fine, I do it all the time." Jane, unsure of her own decisions but fearful of disobedience, did as she was told. She admitted that she was rarely sober during these encounters. Sometimes she would start clean, but the shame, the disgust, the need to escape, that's when the drugs came in. Ecstasy, pills, anything to dull the pain and push her through. Each time she thought she had hit rock bottom, there was always something darker to descend into. She had crossed lines she never thought possible. And with each step further into the underworld, the harder it became to leave. What made this whole experience even more harrowing was the emotional manipulation. Diddy didn't just give her money. He used guilt as a weapon. He gaslighted her, made her feel like she owed him not just sex, but everything. He would gift her jewelry after group sex sessions, only to ask, "Do you have more in you?" Jane felt trapped. Her tears, her protests, her cries for help, they didn't matter. He made her feel that the only way to keep his affection was to comply, to give him what he wanted. In the most disturbing of moments, Jane recalled an incident where she threw up after sleeping with two men. Diddy allegedly looked at her and said, "Good, now you're ready for the third." For Jane, this was the ultimate breakdown of her humanity. What was once love was now a weapon, wielded against her in the most degrading ways. As the trial progressed, Jane's testimony became even more complex. She admitted that sometimes she coordinated the escort arrangements herself. She knew exactly what Diddy wanted. She was aware of the kind of women he preferred, and she sometimes called them up. But even with this admission, prosecutors argued that it didn't erase the years of manipulation and control. The defense, however, painted a different picture. They suggested that Jane was a willing participant, perhaps caught in an unhealthy relationship, but ultimately responsible for her own actions. Was she a victim of manipulation or a willing accomplice? The jury was faced with these blurred lines, unsure of where to place the blame. Jurors were shown exhibits, screenshots of her with various men: Paul, Leo, Cabral, Anton. She described each one. Some she despised. One she begged not to perform with, but Diddy wouldn't cancel the session. Instead, he replaced the man. Even when Jane was sick, exhausted, suffering from infections, the sessions continued. She said she did it for him. She wanted to make him happy. She didn't want to lose the affection he showed her, even if it was fleeting and conditional. The faces of the men in the photos were not just random strangers. They were symbols of the cycle of abuse and manipulation that Jane had been trapped in. Each man was just another pawn in a game that Jane had been forced to play. Jane's world wasn't limited to one city. It spanned states, even countries. She detailed flights from Atlanta to LA to New York, and even to Turks and Caicos. These were not just casual trips, these were carefully orchestrated events. Jane described how travel agents booked the escorts and how reimbursements were handled. On what she thought would be romantic getaways, another man would appear. She thought she could escape for just a little while, that she could reconnect with Diddy. But those trips, meant to be moments of relief, became another opportunity for Diddy to manipulate her. She was left sore, in pain, and forced to comply with his demands. The illusion of escape never came. There was no getting away from the life he had trapped her in. The court was shown several pieces of evidence, screenshots of Jane with various men. In some of the images, Diddy wasn't in the frame, but Jane said he was always there. Always filming, always directing, always telling her what to do. The most haunting part of her testimony came when Jane admitted that Diddy never filmed her sober. When she laughed in the videos, it wasn't genuine laughter. It was an act. She was high, pretending to be happy, pretending to enjoy what was happening. But behind every smile was a mask. Behind every laugh was pain. The jury had been silent through much of Jane's testimony. Some of them looked tired while others remained focused intently. They listened as Jane cried on the stand. They read the texts she had sent. They heard Diddy's voice on the recordings. Throughout all of this, Diddy remained quiet at the defense table. He occasionally passed notes to his lawyers, whispered, and adjusted his glasses. But he didn't engage with the jury. The judge had made it clear that he was not to acknowledge or nod at the jury, not after the warning the day before, because this trial wasn't just about what happened behind closed doors. It was about more than one woman's story. It was about the consequences of unchecked power in the public eye, and the jury could feel the shift in the air. This was more than just one woman's battle. It was the battle of many, a battle for those who had been silenced by the powerful and famous. And in this courtroom, that silence was finally being broken. The testimony isn't over. The cross-examination is still to come. And whether this ends in conviction or acquittal, one thing is clear. Behind every NDAs, every diamond gift, and every chart-topping single, someone was crying in silence. This is no longer just a trial. It's a reckoning.